That's right. We got it all figured out, and that's not true. All right, we're good there. We're good there. All right, I think we're good. I think I sent the link out to everybody. We're streaming, and we're good. All right, we got a stream going. All right, cool. All right, so we sent everything out to everybody so they can see the notes. So we're going to dig into this today. Thank you for your patience. Sorry for being late, but it is kind of what it is today. All right, so what we're going to do is kind of walk through this whole thing. We're going to cover problem solving, resourcing for people, for community resources, things of that nature, and then finally wrap up with a fun topic, suicide, and how to deal with that when it comes up. And odds are it won't come up, but you got to know what to do when it does, if it does, and so we'll talk about that also. So we are going to go through this. The note's probably the shortest note you've seen ever in this class, and that's fine. So we'll cover all this material, but we may not go the full 2 hours, and that's fine, or an hour and a half, because we will be done at noon, no matter what. So let's have a word of prayer, and we'll go from there. Heavenly Father God, I thank you for those who are here and those who are traveling and literally around the country right now and able to catch us now and watch us, or those that are sick. God, I pray, first of all, I pray for Teresa Edwards as she recovers. You put a healing touch upon her and minister to her and be with her, God. I pray for Josie as she's going through this grief and loss of her mom. We thank you for her service to you and just continue to be her comfort and her strength in this time. And God, we thank you for the opportunity to come together and to learn, to grow, to talk, to share, to be a part of your hand, your work for your people. And God, what an honor and privilege it is. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right, let's get at it. So problem solving, I'm going to talk about that real quick here. The goal, I got to make this bigger so I can read it. The goal of problem solving is to helping is action, whether it's making a decision, accepting a loss that cannot be changed, learning a new skill, finding a job or something else. Thought out and decisive action leads to growth. Knowing what the problem is, but being able to find a solution is a common difficulty. It is useless to boil down the problem if no action is to be taken. So that kind of summarizes kind of what we're going to look at. We're going to go through this 8 steps of problem solving with you guys. It is it's a method. It's kind of funny. I learned to do this. It was back then. It was 7 steps. I added one. I learned how to do it when I worked at Billy Graham. I worked at Billy Graham International when I was in Bible college. Billy Graham International was based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. They had like a whole city block in downtown, and I worked in the mail center and worked there for about 3 years, I guess it was, and so I was part of a team that did all this problem-solving stuff for the mail center. And so I learned the 7 steps of problem solving, and then I've applied it in different applications. And when I did my work in counseling, they laid out 7 steps of problem solving as one method of helping people. It's a very brief. When you call a lot of stuff, you will do what we call brief counseling, which is it's brief helping. And when you do that, you're very clear on your goal, how to do it, all that stuff. One of the biggest things to do, and the biggest advice I can give anybody, is you don't want to be an advice giver. You want to help them to figure it out on their own the best possible. You're there along with them. You're praying with them. You partner with them in this, but you help them figure out how to do that. So these 8 steps is a guideline that they can take away from and do it, not just be dependent upon someone else to walk them through it, but to do it on their own. This format is used a lot in brief counseling, brief helping work, all the time. It's just kind of the standard method to do. So, and I've used this. It's kind of funny. I've used this to look at major problems in church work, come up with creative ideas for ministries, all kinds of different things. And I've done it in couples work. I've done it in individual work. I've done it in all kinds of applications. So this idea and the structures is really funny. When I was kind of working up the outline, I was kind of looking at my stuff and going, and I started thinking this through. I go, man, because I do this automatically to the point though. I'll use the 7 steps like for my family. Okay, what do you want to do for dinner? Apply that to 7 steps. For example, when we bought a car, I use this method. When we plan vacations with our kids. Okay, what do we want to do? We have one idea. What can we get? Because we used to do home staycations because we're cheap and poor. Well, what are you going to do? Let's get some ideas. And there's this whole, you got a problem, what do you want to do? And it can be simple, it can be very complex. And, when you get into someone that's in crisis, oftentimes what happens is their minds get overwhelmed by all the thoughts, all the feelings, all the emotions, and they get locked up. Can't think it through. What do you do? How do you do it? I don't know what to do. Can I do anything? Is the typical response. So these steps help you walk through step by step, bit by bit, to work through that. Because you take what is, and sometimes it's huge, overwhelming situation. How do you deal with the person that says, I'm going to be evicted out of my house? What do you say to them when my husband wants to leave me? My wife wants to leave me. What do you say to them when the issue is, they have a son that's an addict, and they got to get out of the house? What do you say to the person that they're facing jail time? There are some real major issues. And so how does this work? It does apply because you want to, again, big, huge issues that can be very complex. The biggest thing for us to understand is try to find one thing that we can do, not what we can't. Oftentimes our focus is on what we can't do, not what we can do. So that changes everything. I sit down with people all the time and they, what do I do? What do I do? And I go, well, what? I always ask the question, what do you want? And they go, I don't know. Well, then you can't answer the question what to do until you know what you want. Now, with that, let's go through the 8 steps. Number 1, whatever the situation is, however it may be, number 1, pray for clarity. Pray through the process. Prayer is the number 1 thing. You have to allow the Holy Spirit to work, to move, and to start out from prayer, to bathe in prayer, to do all that. And with that, you don't rush through it. Oftentimes, people want to fix things quickly. We are very much more microwave culture, fast food, than we are crock pot and slow cooker. God's eternal. Guess what? His timetable is a whole lot different than yours and mine. And oftentimes, we need to slow down, not hurry up. So prayer. So with that, you just taking time to pause in prayer is a powerful thing. And when you pray, you change the person's focus upon their problem to the Lord who provides all. He is our healer. He is our source. He is our all in all. He opens up doors. Again, what we expect, when, as we mentioned earlier, I'm literally driving my daughter to the hospital a second time, and that was probably the 4th or 5th time that week. She went 3 times for the kidney stone, then twice for the fainting spells that she was having. And what do we do? What's going on? And Lord, give us answers, give us clarity, and because we were getting roadblock, and so open up the doors, get it clear. So we and it just, it was like an hour later. We're having a conversation with the ER docs. Do you go to the ER? What's your plan? And if you ever take someone to the ER, how long do you plan to stay there? 4 hours, 6 hours, a day? Within an hour and a half, we were through the ER, and all the tests run. What do you want to do? These are the options. You can go home or you can stay. If you want to be admitted, let us know. That's record time. That's favored. Okay? And so, then, she had to go back again a couple days later because she went home and then she had another bad spell. What in the world? We called one doctor. He said, stay. Just have her lay down, take her medication, see how it goes. Calls the cardiologist, say, no, bring her in. Take her in, and boom, right through. Stop at the ER, but right up to the room pretty quick. Doing all the tests, the Lord provides. The Lord provides. Now, what I want is it's just to go away. Right? Okay. His grace, His time. I'm praying for a miracle, but I'll walk through His way. Okay, so praying through the process is important. So sometimes you'll be sitting down with a person. Now, first of all, you pray with them. Then you identify the issue. Define it. What is the problem? And be realistic about it. What can you possibly control? What can you possibly do? Now, key thing with this, I need to grab it. It's always good to have a piece of paper. Put it in front of them, put a pen. Okay, write out what the problem is. I've done this in all kinds of circumstances. And I've had people go, I can't do that. You say, well, then we're going to wait till we can figure that out. They want to get to the solution, but we got to stop and figure out what the problem is. That, honestly, I had 3 conversations this week, and that's define what you want, what the problem is, and then we'll go how we go about fixing it. And I put that to someone, they go, I don't know. I go, well, okay, let's try. We'll talk about it. I'll give you X amount of time to walk through, but I go, then, we'll come back and talk about it next week. That itself can take a long time. Now, sometimes they don't have time to wait, but you go, well, do you need to make a decision about this right now? Again, because the emotions are so overwhelming, they think, and because, again, we like to control things. Unknown is scary. Unknown is frightening. But lean upon the Lord. Wait upon Him. He provides. So give that time. And you have them write it out. Sometimes they can be clear about it, and then you want to. What is the problem? Write it all out. Walk through that is real key. Step number 3. There's understand everyone's interest. What is their interest in this thing? What's their thought? What's their feeling? And the thought. Because see, you may have a problem with the one person, but there are other people involved. And maybe they're present. Like I do with couples all the time. Okay, this is your interest. This is your interest. Okay, what's your thought feeling about this? Well, that they don't agree. Thought. Okay, let me emphasize this. This is a really important thing. Thoughts are your logic. A, B, C. 1 plus 2 is 3. 5 plus 5 is 10. That's a logic. There's a lot of logic about a stuff. But here's logic, and then there's feeling. Logic and feeling don't always play together within yourself. You may know one thing, but you may feel something separate. They don't always line up. That's the battle. Now, so you have an overwhelming situation. Usually there's a logic present. Usually, sometimes there isn't. Okay, I'll give you that. But the emotions just going everywhere, right? So, and then you add one person and you have a second person, and they have their own thought and feeling. Well, they don't line up and they don't agree with each other, don't like what the other person says, and that's a whole lot of fun. Anyone's been married can say, amen, hallelujah to that. And LS just says, yes, ma'am. Okay, honey, I'll do whatever.
Yeah, because I won't eat.
He's a wise man. He's learned.
That's right.
But taking it through. Okay, what are your thought? What are your feeling? They don't always agree. And you don't disregard the feeling. You don't disregard the thought. All that has value. But sometimes you got to walk through that process. This is, in a work environment, when you're trying to fix a problem at work or come up with some ideas, you don't do too much with this stuff. But in we call interpersonal stuff with people, and that can take, again, time. But it's okay to give it time. You don't have to give it a quick solution. Just walk through it. Okay, what's your thought? What's your feeling? I don't know. And they'll say it out loud and they go, that's nuts. Okay, that's all right. That's cool. And then work it through again, in prayer, if they can, just walk through that. Okay, so then that's just kind of walking through all that stuff. Okay, so once you get an idea, define the issue. You talk about everyone's interests, thoughts, and feelings about it all. Sift through that, and again, you write it all out. And you have them write it out. There's something about when they write it out. I'm telling you, that's like night and day. They're taking owner, and because that just writing out, thinking through, putting it on paper makes a big difference. And then they go but see, the thing is when you start walking through some with this in brief counseling type of dynamic, what becomes overwhelming when you put it on paper. Wait a minute, there's something I can do here. What comes you can't grab a hold of, you can start to get a hold of. It's a powerful thing. Okay. The next one, which is list possible solutions. Okay, it's time to do brainstorming. I typically, when I do this process, and people hate me when I do it, but doggone it works. Give me 50 to 100 ideas, and don't judge them. Be as stupid and wild and goofy as you can come up with. And the more ideas, start thinking about it, the better you're off. And you just write them all out. I've done this with teams of people, and I've had I literally had sheets of paper on the wall, all around the wall, not different ideas, to 100 ideas. Like if I do a big project, we want to do this, but how many were here when we were right in the middle of building construction, and we had bad weather, and so we had to do the homecoming luncheon in the gymnasium, and we used porta potties. We did porta potty races. Does anybody come to that?
No.
We did a homecoming luncheon and all that, but weather was bad and this and that, and we had to do everything inside basically because I think it's too hot. And because of construction, we had all these porta potties in the building. So the idea came up. We went off this whole process, come up with an idea of do this. Let's have porta potty races. So we rented porta potties, had them brought in, put them in the gym, and we had teams of people pushing these porta potties around the gym. That came out of the brainstorming session, trying to do creative problem solving. Okay. When I've done vacations with families, we'll do 100 ideas, and my wife and kids, they hate me for it. Work up the 100 ideas, and some really good ideas come up because the kids want to spend a lot of money. Is my thought as a dad, but they want to do something that's going to cost me a lot of money, and they come up with really cheap ideas. And go, I like that one. Okay, cool. We know that one. So, but then when you do it in this context, now let's really come up with some ideas. If you have all the thought, all the feeling written out, because that influences those ideas. And then you start kicking around, and ideas, if you have different people involved with it, those ideas will take in consideration what the other person thinks. You will find some out of that without no judgment. Don't criticize it. Just let the ideas flow. Just get them out there. Don't judge it. You'll evaluate it, criticize it later. But right now, just getting the ideas. You will find stuff that is really possible. The more you do, the more better odds you find something that's going to work. The more people involved in that, if you got two people, and then as you as a person walking through it, you can give ideas. That's when you can really speak into it. And you can say, what about this idea? What about that idea? Because sometimes if the problem is so overwhelming, again, if you have someone and you sit down and briefly, it's a big crisis, and you kind of walk through this, you got time against you, and you got to deal with it right then and there. They have a decision that day. That happens. Okay. Well, really create ideas. You're not telling them what to do. You're just throwing the ideas out, and then they take it, and then they take ownership of it as they walk through the process. They're not dependent upon you to tell them what to do, and they have their own ideas. So that you come up with those ideas and different ways of looking at it. Sometimes they can't think of different ways of looking at it. They don't have the ideas or resources. We're going to talk about resources a little bit later, but there's ways to do that, to communicate to them, to get them plugged in, and find good solutions. Like one time we had a gal in the church, and she her car literally gave up the ghost. It was horrible, and it just died on her. And basically, she had a problem. She came to us, and then I got a couple of guys together, and we kind of talked about it. Said, okay, what's a good solution? And one guy said that it's not worth anything. We literally took it to an auto shop that knew what they were doing. They go, it's not worth the money to fix it. But some other guy said, well, I got a car here. It just needs a little bit of repair. I think I need new tires and brakes. So, and what happened was we took that car in. They put new tires and brakes on it. We got it all at really good price. People gave money, a little bit of money to church. We took some money out. But it was all these different solutions, and boom, the person had a good working car. Went from no car, had 2 kids, single mom, 2 kids, and to a car that was working, so she could go to work and do what she needed to do. And it cost very little money. But that was a whole process to work through that. All she knew is, I have this car broken down. It's going to cost me $3,000 to fix it, and I don't know what to do. I don't have $3,000. I have to fix this car. Well, for less than $1,000, we got her another car that was in better shape. And she only had to pay maybe $300. I think she might have put in, she had like $250, $300, and she paid that. And then through donations and church benevolence and other resources, we got it covered. But that's just good thinking through and solutions. Sometimes someone comes up, I don't have rent. We come across that. Okay, let's walk through the process. What resources do you have? I have $200 in my account. I owe $900. What can I do? Okay, now it depends on where they're at. Ideas, brainstorm ideas. Okay, if I contact this office in the county, number one, they will protect you from eviction. There's an office you call, if you call early enough, you can't be evicted if you do the right steps. Then they pull in X amount of dollars, and so little bits and pieces. And guess what? No one gets evicted. It's caught up. Landlord's happy. Person's taken care of. good things happen. If it happens too late, I've had someone come to me just recently and go, and that, they got the quarter's been given, and I can't help you. I get $1,000, $2,000 worth of debt, and I can't. We don't give that much money out to someone off the street. So, I can't help you. If you want to get to a new place, we can help you with some money towards that, but that's it. You're out of that place. I don't have resources for that. So, you start thinking, okay, what are the options that we can do, and how we can do it, and how we can shape it, if you really start getting out, you can get really some good ideas. And then if you have, and we'll talk about resources, what you can do and how we can do it, and what's available. Yeah, you can tap into some stuff. Okay. So you'll possible solutions. Again, that's no judgment thing. Then you go to evaluate the options. Okay. You create a criteria. You kind of say, this is what's really important. Now the criteria. Did I put that? I didn't get them in. I think I put that in the notes, didn't I? I flipped this wrong the last minute. Where'd that go? I put it someplace. Okay, well I'm confused. I did. Okay, so what is our criteria? Okay, I put it in your guys' notes. Too many notes. There are plus and minuses. Number one, you always got to think cost, money, what's affordable, the feelings of it. Let's say what I would do. Let me show you. I've got a pen here. So what I do, called the matrix. So what I'll do, I got to do this so I can people online can see. I'll take a sheet of paper and I'll say, okay, you have 25, 30 ideas. Pick your top 5 to 10. So we write out the 5 ideas. Okay, pick your top 5 of those 5 ideas. So do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now really, have them write out just like this. Okay? Now, criteria. Money. Okay? And I'll do, let's see, I'm going to put the money. They're feeling about it. They like the idea of feeling wise. Is there, time-wise, is that going to work? If it's, money, feeling, and time. So, and now if you have person A and person B, and do couples work, brief deal, I'll say, okay, they all have a say so. Again, going back to when I did this with family vacation, we'd literally have write out 10 ideas. Have them do 100 ideas, we'll pick the top 10. And then, okay, what does Ben feels good? What does Beth feels good idea? What does Rosie and Dad feels good idea? But then you put a score with it. So Mom and Dad were 10, kids only were 5, so we can override them. So that's pretty good. So, but you kind of pick out what are the solutions, and then you put a score with it. Okay, 1 to 5, I don't care, 1 to 10, whatever, and you kind of say, okay, what's that score? Well, this idea cost-wise is 1 or a 5. Oh, that's really cheap. Well, that's a 5 probably there. Well, that one's real expensive. That's a 1. Okay, you're feeling about it. I like that idea. It makes me feel good about it. I think this helps me good. Okay, it's a 5. That's a 4. That's a 3. That's a 1. Time. That's going to take too long. That's going to be really quick. All these things kind of walk through, and they score. And you and you told the scores. Just do the numbers. This adds up, and we're good. And then, okay, your top 3 solutions are this. That's what as you thought about it, walk through. Again, you're taking overwhelming, put it in bite-sized thought pieces, and giving a score to it. And they go, oh. Then all this stuff, all that overwhelming, you help them whittle it down to here's some possible solutions, and that's there. Now we're starting to get, okay, because the biggest thing to deal with is that people don't feel hope. When people don't feel hopeful, it gets really overwhelming. When they feel like they're stuck in a pit, an abyss of stuff, it gets really scary. When you give them just one thing to hold on to, it may not be the grand solution to everything, but you give them one thing to hold on to, then I have what I can't control to I can control this. And when they start getting that clarity about that, it becomes a whole lot easier. Okay? So you evaluate. So you evaluate the options. So you create the matrix. Then you develop, or you work the matrix and do the math of it. So that's step number 6. Number 7, develop a plan. What are you going to do? Don't put. I mean, day right. I'm going to take this idea. I'm going to do this. So I'm going to call this person. I'm going to talk to this person. I'm going to get this. I'm going to do that. These are the action steps you're going to take, and then you write them out with a time frame. I'm going to get this done because sometimes because when people get overwhelmed, they get stuck, and they wake up the next morning and they don't know what to do, and they just sit. That's what happens in spades, especially when the emotions are so strong. So you got to be wise with it. You don't give them 10 steps to do tomorrow. That's foolishness. You say you got to do 1. You got to be really. What's realistically for you to do tomorrow? What's realistically you can do today? Okay, then your job is, I'm going to call you and ask you if you did it. Guess what? When you say, I'm going to call you and ask you if you did it, you about sealed the deal. Because they know you're going to call them and ask them if they did it or not. And so they'll do it. Now, if they don't, odds are emotions are overwhelming or the chaos of life continues. You just got to say, remember, this is your plan. Don't pick it up for them. Don't try to solve it for them. Don't take the action for them. There's family, there's other resources. When I think when there are the resources they have, such as family to help, friends to help, they let other people help them and let them and challenge them to ask for that help. That's a hard thing to do. But usually there's people around just are willing to help. All they need to know is what they need to do to help. I need help, someone to help me call this person. Okay. Now there's some folks, there may be some elderly, disabled, this making the phone call is an issue. And okay, that can be done. But they can make a phone call, they can do the thing, they can, drive to, okay. Maybe I got to drive to X amount of place and I don't have gas in my car. Well, then we'll give you a gas card. We'll give you a card of mine and put some gas in mine and you're good to go. But they take the action. That's really important. Okay? They do the plan, they work the plan, and then define what is a win. When you think, okay, when this is all said and done, what's going to be like this worked? And did it work? Okay, and have them say, yeah, because what they define as a win before this is going to be totally different what they define the win after they go through the process. Because they'll be more realistic, they'll be clear about it, and it's kind of what they think the solution is totally different what they're going to end up with, but they'll have control over it. And then really wrap it up and just bathe it in prayer. That they see that happen. Because they say, okay, we're going to pray that this exact thing you're praying for is going to happen. And guess what? They put action to it, they're praying through it, they're walking through it, and it happens. God provides. God is good. God works it out. You can pray for pray for miraculous, the healing to occur, the bill to be paid, the favor to happen, and it can happen, and they may exceed what their goal, what the win is. Praise the Lord. But that type of thing is something that as lay ministers, when you come across crises, this is something you can do, but you're not doing the work; you're helping the person do the work. That's the key difference. If you take it on for you to do, all you're doing is creating them, you're enabling them to be dependent upon you. And that's what you can't do.
And then, too, sometimes if you take it on yourself, by not letting them do it, you're becoming too involved.
Right.
And then maybe give up on it. You put your own family in jeopardy.
Yep.
Or have you become, the enabler for them,
Mm-hmm.
and then you lose some responsibilities in your own home way.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
you don't want to do that.
And there are some people that need to pick up responsibility. Again, depends on the level of, I've run across, geez. I remember one time a few years ago, I got a phone call from, I think I mentioned this to you all before. We used to have not here, but the church that served that before in Texas. We had a large ministry to physically and mentally disabled adults. So group homes would come into during Sunday school hour, like 100 would bring in 100 people, workers and mentally, physically disabled adults to a chapel service that we did. It was like a Sunday school format, but it was a big group thing that what you would do. It was big, and we did it. It was great ministry. Well, with that came in some unique situations because the way Texas law was is that if they didn't have a guardian assigned to them, they could call the minister that they would be a part of their church, and they could make medical decisions for that person. So I'd get a phone call from a doctor hey, you're the pastor of the church there, right? I go, yeah, I'm one of the associates here. Well, they need to have a surgery. They have no guardian outside the state guardian, and for that to act upon it, we need a minister to also sign off on it. Now, the state assigns guardianship, but Michigan's different. Michigan gives guardianship total control. If you're physically, mentally disabled, you have no family be your guardian, you'll be assigned a guardian by the state. And those guardians can have huge amounts of caseloads. But they make all decisions for the person in the state of Michigan. In Texas, they say, well, you can do that, but you have to check with the minister or any other family or friend or something like that can also vouch for. And they prefer a minister to be a third party. So I get phone calls all the time. Well, what do you want to do for this person? He needs to have a surgery. He has prostate cancer. I did one prostate cancer, one eye surgery, and something else. I can't remember what it was now. And they could make that decision. So I've got to make the decision. Well, then I called a couple. We had two elders that were doctors at that church. And I said, okay, this is what's going on. What should we do? And they'd say, well, this is what we do. They'd actually ask for the case files and stuff and see the medical files, and they'd make recommendations. We'd say, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is best practice. But that was how we handled it. That person couldn't make that decision. They needed our help to do it. And that's fine. If you're dealing, my mother-in-law, she's sweet as can be, but she's limited in what she can do. Her memory's not the best. So, we've taken control of all things. That's our job as her kids. That's her job. And that's what we got to do. But it's not my job as her pastor. Now, if I have somebody that doesn't have anybody, then we will step in and help. And then typically how we do that is that we will involve other people. We've assigned lay minister, okay, you're the main contact with this person. If something comes up, let us know. I can't think of how we had a couple situations go up, and they would step in and intervene and help out with some stuff. But they would always involve other people. No one person carried the load. So a lay person would be the regular contact with them, praying with them, stuff would come up, say, hey, there's an issue coming up, they don't have resource, what can we do about this? And then we would figure out how to do it, and we'd figure out a solution to it. Go from there. So there's a lot of different ways we can process stuff, but it's the key thing is know that you're part of the process, not the end all. And with people that are ability to think through and walk through these steps, they need to walk through these steps and take action with the steps. And you're just there to help encourage and help them to follow through with it. Okay? All right. That's a lot. I mean, I've done weeks on the 7, 8 steps. So anyways, but we're kind of flying over it. So, but it's a brief thing, but it's a great thing to follow. Resources. Now, the first question I ask when it comes to resources, what resources do they have? Sometimes you got to get in, okay, what money, and we'll talk about a little bit with you guys about benevolence here at the church, but what resources do they have? How much money they got in the bank account? What friends, what family do they have? What do they have? They got a car? Is it broke? Is it fixable? Is it not? Is it, there's all kinds of things. Do they have history of work? What resources they have, and really open that up. That's the first question. And family and friends. And what family can help you, what friends can help you. And then encourage them to act upon it. And to ask. That's always a big issue.
You get resistance from people from wanting to answer those questions?
I know. But then there's the one thing that's important though is that if you go outside of those systems, they're going to ask. If you go to community resources, they're going to ask those questions. I guarantee you. And that's hard. And it's really feels violating sometimes to do that. But sometimes, again, there's oftentimes, there are a lot of resources for a lot of people. It's not easy to find. I'll give you that. But they're typically depends on the problem and solutions you're trying to work with. There's usually some resource to tap into. That's just within their arm's reach. It's just vocalizing it to do so. But then if they ask big, because I've had people show up to me and say, we'll talk about what we do as a church here. But when people off the street, I got a $1,000 bill. What can you do to help me pay for it? I go, I can't help you pay $1,000 bill if you're walking off the street. If you're a friend of Josie's and Josie says, this is my neighbor, I've known them for years, my cousin or sister or whatever, and they need help, we're going to step up to help. But that's different than someone off the street. Because there's people, honestly, there's people that try to hustle us all day long. There's one guy who goes from church to church to church trying to hustle people all day long. He shows up here, I walk out and say, you need to go. You don't give him anything.
There used to be one in Wednesday night. He'd always say, I'm trying to get back to Port Huron. I need $10 for gas.
Yep, I know exactly who he is, and I chase him off. We'll call the police on him, but anyways.
I've run across too that a person they'd have the resources to take care of their own issue, but yet they will try to get you to take care of it.
Right.
They'll pretend they don't have.
Right.
Then in the end,
They do
push
have.
comes to shove, they'll go ahead and take care of it.
Yep. And then typically,
That's-
and as a policy, the church will, and we'll just jump on this real quick. We never cover 100. Well, if you are a church member or faithful attender, that's one thing. If you are just asking, we will only do half. We will never do full. That's just our policy. We will not, and we will ask you, what family and friends are fan, what are your resources? We sit down with them, there's a whole interview process, and we ask all the hard questions. What's your income? How many dependents do you have? We need to know, and if it gets really nitty gritty, we want to see proof of. The churches, we have benevolence funds, we have funds set aside for this for all kinds of issues, and we never hang on to those funds. We spend those funds every year, and we will. I mean, one of the things that we do at the Lakeside with Love is we get extra, it all goes in that, out the door it goes. We don't hold on to it. It's one of the things it's a principle that we keep to. But we have resources, but we don't want to give it freely because, again, we're not there to create and enable you, but to help you through. I called a member just recently, and they had some car trouble and need some. They're driving a vehicle with some really bad tires. I go, well, what do new tires cost? Give me the number. I go, okay, I can authorize half that today. I'll get you a check next week, and we'll take care of that, and we'll do that. But that's a faithful member that I know is faithful and good and all that stuff, and we'll do that. Someone off the street though, my first response is to say no or give you $10 because there's a lot of hustle out there. A lot of hustle. So validity of all those things are important. So family and friends is always good to ask. Have you talked to some friends? Have you talked to family? Have you asked? Sometimes I know some situations they've asked and they've been told no or whatever. There's always systems with that. And you can say okay. You don't want to be a harsh judge. You got to be wise but never a harsh judge. Again, doing this work over the years, and I mean this church is not so bad. In church in Texas, is probably the worst I've ever worked in. On benevolence, because we were off a major interstate and we were in Texas. So transients were huge there. We actually had our back out here. Never happened here in Lakeside, thank the Lord. Well, we had to have something happen once recently. They had a little bit smaller parcel of property, but there's a big heavy wooded area in the back like we have here, but it was kind of small. Well, when the winter came out, the leaves kind of fell. Now they don't have harsh winter in Texas. But you can see in the back, what's in the middle of those woods? Now, we had a large preschool through 6th grade school on campus, 200 students easy. In the woods was a squatter's village. They were living back there, and no one knew it. Police didn't know it because we had us. There was around the corner all these businesses, restaurants, hotels. No one knew it, and the police so the police started watching. They used to chase them out all the time. Right on the church property. That's a fun thing. So we had a lot of people knocking on our door. Give us money. Can I get $10? Can I get $20? And I was like the main guy to deal with them all. So we'd walk through a process, and we had to set enough funds. We had an elder and missions director that would help out with that. And we had like a steady policy. We'd give you $10, but you can only ask X amount of times. We'd ask for their identification. Copy them. And the same thing we do here. We copy it, we put it on file, we keep it so we don't have repeat offenders. And so there's that whole thing. But then there's but then someone has a legitimate need, then we want to help out with that. And we've helped out a lot of times. And we've gotten phone calls, hey, someone you guys have worked with over time, and hey, I've talked to so-and-so, and they have a financial need, what can the church do? I vouch for them, then we will do different things in that. We'll see what we can do for them. A community resource in Macomb County, there's a lot of great resources for our shelter, food, senior services has a lot of great resources, health issues. Interfaith Helpers is another one, which for seniors, if they have like, I need my grass cut. Here in the church, someone needs help around the church, we'll call up a bunch of guys and they'll go out and do stuff. We've done that tons of times. But then there's a group, if it's outside the church, that are called Interfaith Helpers. They will, if we can get them, they're really stressing resources. They'll do home repairs, they'll do a lot of different things. Sometimes we've had, their heat's not working. They have no heat in the house, which is not good in winter in Michigan. And it costs too much money to fix. Well, I can call a couple people and they'll do it for nothing, or they'll donate the work and labor, and it'd just be material cost. So.
What is McCrest? I'm from Oakland County.
McCrest is a Macomb County residence, and I've got what else it means. But McCrest is basically, we used to host them here. They work with churches all throughout the community, and they have a facility in Mount Clemens, I think, where they house homeless people, and their focus is families. So they will host them, but we would host. Churches would take turns and host for a week. When we opened the daycare center, it became really complicated to do that, and so we decided we couldn't host anymore. And so, but they'll stay at a church for a week, and it's very much transitional housing. Their goal is to make sure you got a place safe to stay, but get you in permanent housing down the road. And so it's one of the better organizations. It's a great faith-based group, nonprofit that works within Macomb County. It's the model's used in a lot of different areas, and so they call it McCrest here, but it's different things also.
I like doing
Yeah, it was a great ministry, but when we opened the daycare center, it was brought in a lot of complications for us, and then maintained the facilities and so forth, and was that safe and all that, and it was decided not to do that. Plus, it's just logistically really hard.
I was gonna say, yeah, that was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I think the logistics of it, because you needed a lot of volunteers
Yeah.
for the morning breakfast.
It was like 50 people every day.
Yeah.
In 7 days for 7 days straight.
For 7 days, yeah, volunteers. We were here from 4 o'clock onward in the evening,
Yeah.
or 6 o'clock in the morning, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning.
And give them breakfast and go because they don't stay in the building during the day because that's the way it works. They can stay overnight, but they can't stay during the day. But it's like 50 people have to do it, and there's the crew that runs it. Because we have a large, because of the larger gymnasium, we can house a lot. Most churches can't house that many. We can house the most. But then we would offer them dates, saying we can do this week, and they wouldn't take the date we offered. And we go, okay. After like 3 or 4 years, we said, okay, we're not, this week we coordinate schedule, church schedule, and the daycare. Okay, what would be the best time for us to do it? Okay, this is a good date to do it, and they would take the date. Well, then we can't really help you all. So, they're still part of our mission support and all that stuff. So, Interfaith Helpers also we support. Lakeside resources, benevolence policy. This gives you a real quick rundown of that, the brochure, and I'll email this to everybody online. There are the guidelines for it, the scripture basis for it, and ideas and behind it, the purpose of behind it, the steps that are involved with it. So someone comes with us at benevolence policy. If someone walks up the door and says, I need help with groceries or whatever. One, we have impact. That's our first response. But sometimes their need is quicker, and we have the little pantry here. We'll try to meet that need as fast as we can. But if they need cash help, rent help, they fill out. They come in. We do an application with them, and then we say we'll get back to you. If they need something right now, I've had people go, I need something. I'm not going to give it to you. You have to wait, and because your crisis is not your crisis is not my problem because you neglected to. Oftentimes, people wait too long. Again, honestly, with COVID, Macomb County, if you do the right steps, it's almost impossible to get evicted because of revenue. There are lawyers. There's a group of lawyers that got together with the county, and they will take legal action to protect you during eviction. And there's funds to help cover rent. And it's a great program. But if you wait too late to that, if you get notice of eviction, you can do it. But if you wait for after judgment, it's too late then. So there's a lot of great resources to help with that. And plus within the county, people, my power bill's out of whack. I'm going, I need to pay my power. I'm going, I know DTE and Consumers Energies have programs to protect you against that. But if you wait too long, that becomes a problem. But I've called people. It's one thing you run to. They'll get, and then we'll say, give us your bill. We will not write a check. If someone comes to me, Joe Blow comes off the street and said, I need $500 to pay rent. I'll say, I'll give you half of that. I can do that for you. Okay, but give me your name of your landlord. I will not write Joe Blow a check. I'll write our policy. We have to write the check to the organization, the landlord, the apartment complex, whatever, and we will do that. I've gone to the apartment complex and given the rent to the person, to write them and got a receipt, brought it right back and covered that. But when it comes, but they don't want to do that. They don't have it. They don't have that information. Well, I can't help you. Sometimes what's happened is when you ask, they say, well, give me your electric bill. We will call, we'll follow up with them and say what's going on. And they go, well, they didn't ask us about our programs to help them. I go, they're asking us to help pay the bill. And they go, well, they never contacted us about this. Okay, so then it's just, you need to contact them, call them and say, I'm in crisis, help me out. They do their thing. Sometimes they need a little bit of money to help get things in. Then we'll help pay that. But then it takes it off responsibility of a bailout to them being responsible, and then keep them safe. Okay, because oftentimes it's like it's too late. I got a $500 cell phone bill. There's a little I can do about that one. So there's this. I can give you $500. I can give you X amount of dollars, but I can't pay the whole bill for you. So you got to figure out the rest of it. Okay. So there are limits. And there's a whole big packet. And if you step one, it becomes acquainted with the principal process of Lakeside, which is in the policy and the thing here. Complete the application, which is it's a 3-page application we fill out. We ask all those questions that people aren't comfortable answering. They got to be interviewed by one of the leaders, pastor, deacon, or elder. Receive notification. Then we say, well, we'll get back to you. We'll get back to you in another day or two. Is what we can do. Every so often, it's like off the street. I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to give them $20 and send them on their way, and that's it. That's this kind of that happens more than I like, but it is what it is. If it's more than that, then if it's any over significant, because I'm limited to 250. That's my limit. I can't authorize anything more than that. Any elder, deacon, no one can do over 250. Pastor and Mike in the office can have authorization to do more, but that's only for attenders and members, not off the street. But then that would actually go to the board. They'd have to approve it, say yes, that's a good idea, and support. And there's been times people we've done thousands of dollars of housing assistance, whatever, and it's a board decision. But so that takes time. Those big ones, that goes to the board, and they got to make a decision on that. They can move on, if it's urgent. They can move pretty quick, but it's not done that day of. If proved benevolence will be filled by your interview. So basically, you work with takes care of the payment, making sure the person gets paid, gets a check sent to him, drops it off, whatever. Then there's a follow up. Okay, we did this. Are you doing this? Are you on a financial plan? We'll assign someone like a deacon or elder, someone's good financially, and advising them how to handle the finance, do budget, stuff like that. If that's going to be a solution, and then we'll follow up with them, make sure they're okay. So there's a benevolence, but it's limited to. It has limits such as non-attenders, attenders, members. They get better benefits, and the church has really stepped up a lot of ways. I mean, we've had a couple of years ago, early in COVID, we had a death of a church member, and they had no money for the burial or anything. Family decided to do cremation, which is if they ask me, I'll tell them it's way cheaper to cremate. But it's $1,000, and the church helped cover that cost.
There's nothing in the Bible against cremation.
There's nothing against
A lot
Bible.
of people don't realize.
Yeah, well, the Catholic Church used to have a position against it years ago, and they changed position, but then we all turn to dust. It's just a fast way to get the dust. I mean, so there's nothing wrong with one way or the other, but as you know, funerals are expensive, and it's like $10,000, and if you don't have that money, you don't have the insurance cover for it. Cremation is a very viable option for those, and then we provide for members and attenders. We do memorial services. Don Peck was cremated. We're going to do a memorial for him next week, and we're happy to do that. We do that often, and we'll open the chapel, and if it's cost is an issue, we'll work with people on that stuff, and so we provide that especially to our attenders and members specifically. So there's ways to handle that. So then there's Lakeside Family. Like I said, we've had a lot of situations come up, and okay, we got to figure out how to fix this. We got a plumbing problem at someone's house. I got a guy that could do. We have people here that are certified in HVAC, plumbing. They have businesses and that stuff, and it's just a phone call. They'll do what they can. They may say, we'll donate the labor, you cover the parts, or we ask the person, okay, it's going to cost you. It's a $700 fix. You cover $200. Church will cover this, and the person will donate this, and you're fixed. And we've done that a lot. and be cars or home repair. There's some major home repairs for people. We just called a bunch of people, got yard work, called a bunch of people out, go out and fix it. They take care of it. Sometimes they need a reference. I don't know who can clean my yard. I'm overgrown here. I'll pay for someone. Well, I got 2 or 3 guys I can call. They'll go out and do it, and they'll charge a fair price. I trust them, and it works out. Sometimes they can't afford that, so then we say, okay, the youth go out and have a good field day. All right, cool. Done that all the time. So there's all those types of things that we can do. Okay. All right. Did I not? Uh-oh. Okay. I didn't make my PowerPoint with the suicide stuff. Okay. No, it's not. That's resource. That's not suicide. I just looked at my last page of the notes, but okay. Well. It's in your notes, but didn't put PowerPoint. I was rushing too much this morning. All right, so let's talk about this. Let me pull up my other notes here so I don't miss my notes. All right, cool. So, suicide. Odds of you guys come across it are low, but when you do, let me say this. When you do, if you're acting as a lay minister, you're acting as a under the church. Okay. If you do something wrong, you personally are liable, I'm liable, and I have a higher standard. I'll talk about that in a little bit. I have a higher liability than anybody here officially in the church context, because I'm a licensed counselor, so my rules apply differently. I have to take clear action. If I have a plan written out, I got to do all this stuff to cover it, because I take liability. And the church can be liable. It's happened in the past. It goes, how a lot of this stuff legally comes to pass is what we call tort law. Tort law is someone makes a mistake and someone sues somebody, that makes what they call bench law, and that's tort law. And it changed by jurisdiction. So there have been churches that have mishandled suicide. And then the person dies and the family sues the church. And the church and the families have won. Sometimes they've lost. Yep. And so because as a pastor, and a function as a lay minister. Can't think if we talked about this or not, but let's talk about it now. We're mandated reporters for child abuse, elder abuse, suicide. Elder abuse in the state of Michigan is kind of gray, but we always want to be good, do due diligence. And so as lay ministers, child abuse or elder abuse, if someone tells you my child got hit or I got hit or whatever, communicate to me about it and we'll follow through. Okay. Don't act on your own because what's happened before, and it gets really, if you don't, the big thing, you gotta let us know. Okay. I can't tell them that. Don't do that. Don't do that, because that leaves things really in the lurch. I'm telling you right now, you're required to tell us about it, and then we'll take action. What's happened before, because oftentimes we had something happen just recently it happens with youth typically. They have some issue or whatever, and they'll tell a youth worker about it. They're like, and they go, oh my gosh, and they go, I know about it. We got it covered. We're good. Don't worry about it. And it is covered. But then I have responsibility. I got to document everything, make sure everything. I keep filing everybody, and there's all this stuff. So if anything comes up, we got to cover. We talk to so and so. But sometimes that's not been handled appropriately. Someone says, we had an adolescent tell a worker that that someone was communicated about suicidal thoughts and so forth, and ideation and all that stuff, and no one double checked it. If you tell me that I'm going to see a counselor and they're helping me with suicide, okay, cool. I'm gonna say you need to let me know. You gotta give me permission to call them, so I can verify you're actually working with them. Otherwise, I gotta do my stuff. Because they can lie to you. It happens. And then what happened was that person just told that worker. The worker didn't tell anybody else. So we get a phone call a year later after the person's gone. The worker's gone. The worker's gone. So parents told us. Said the kid told them. They told them this and this and this. I go, don't have a clue. What can I do about that? So I had to do a lot of work to figure out what was going on and make sure things were done right. If that would not have been the case, it could have been really risky for the church. So if you are told anything, communicate to us. Us pastors are mandated reporters. You guys are a little bit gray on that because within the church. But the best policy is you must inform us. That's important. If you don't, it can be bad. And that would, if we find out if someone told you something of this nature and you didn't report it to us, you will not stay as a lay minister.
Do you want that documented in writing?
You can call me and tell me, and I'll document it. You're not compliant to. I mean, if you want to write it down to keep it straight in your head, the facts of it, what you're told, that's fine. That's fine. But I'll write it down. You're not mandated. You're mandated to report.
I just didn't know for backtracking. That's,
Right.
You know.
A document. Write a little note, a little email. Cool. That's fine. But communicate to us. Do not hold that information. Because again, if that would be something I would. That you say that and you being a lay minister outside, you stepping aside or whatever, would be not telling us that information, because that's just the liability and risk of that is too much, and we can't have that. So that's important. Okay, all right. So what do you do if someone says I want to kill myself? Number one, okay, the don'ts. Don't ignore the comment. Don't blow it off. Listen to it. Don't use guilt. Don't say God does not want you to do that. Okay. If they're thinking that way and they're feeling that negative, and you say, well, God doesn't want you to do that, that could turn in that, okay, God even hates me now. Someone that's suicidal is hopeless. And you try to get to the point of having a little bit of hope. The more hopeless, the risk factors of being more hopeless, the more the higher risk of suicide. That's how it works. Okay? Don't pass them off to someone else. Stay present, but still using other resources. So, if what you don't do, and I asked the youth pastors, Aaron and Jordan, I said, so a kid tells you they want to kill themselves. What are you guys going to do? They go, call you. I go, no, you don't. Don't you pass them off on me. You still have to be part of it. Now you're going to contact me, and I may step in, but I'm not going to take you on the loop. Because if they tell you that, guess what? Trust. They've connected with you. That's a key thing. Someone to tell. The risk of someone killing themselves after telling someone else that they want to do that drops drastically. Just saying it is a big step. Those don't scare me. Well, they do scare me. But the ones that don't say anything, those ones that scare me the most, because those are successful attempts. Most people that have suicidation don't commit it. Those even attempt it are successful. But those that don't say anything about it, and this goes in a bigger thing. If they have a long-term history of it, long-term process, they won't tell anybody, and they'll just do it.
I think a lot of times God would give us discernment
Yes.
to exactly what's going on.
Right, and that's for prayer, listening to the Holy Spirit, and being wise. It's really important. So there's three things. We're going to talk about that a little bit about what you got to know about that. Okay, don't give the devil too much credit. Don't try to cast a demon out of him. Don't give them that much credit. They're making those choices. Use discernment. Use wisdom. Is the enemy having a field day? Oh, yeah. But be wise about that. There's still a person that is struggling. Connect with that person. Don't give the devil a foothold. I'm giving too much credit. Okay. Do know the three parts. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Do, if they're talking, do actively listen. Try to connect. If they tell you that, listen, slow down, hear them out. What's the issues? Be patient. Do be patient. Because it's going to take...
Can you repeat that again? If they are talking?
Do active listening. Like you're saying this, kind of say, their thought is this, their feeling is this. It may not make any sense. It doesn't make sense to you, it doesn't make sense to them. But this, you're saying this, you're feeling this, I'm hearing that. Okay. Again, at that moment, this is a typical thing. This is some general big theory of suicide process. Typically, there's a huge event or something, and it causes huge amount of emotion. Now, there could be some major players that's causing that for them. You don't know. Okay. But what the typical thing is that hits, and there's all, I'm overwhelmed by all this stuff. I don't care about life anymore, or I'm judging. And there's all these variables. Typically, it's what I call a wave. Comes up, it will come back down. Now, some people stay there for a long time. Then we got to, then we're going to take some serious action. But if it comes up, now, how long does it take to come back and down? What do we do? We don't know. We don't hope on that. We got to make sure we're on a plan for that. But it comes up, and a big thing of that, helps them come down a notch is that one person hears them. That's all you need to do. You don't got to fix them. They got to feel heard. That's all you got to do. And so simply listening and knowing you understand, you're hearing what they're saying. You may not understand it, but you're listening, and you're there, and you're praying with them, helps take this wave down a notch. That may not be the final solution to it all. Okay, but you just understand that. So a lot of times you'll hear say, "I want to kill myself," but that's part one. There's two more parts that we got to worry about, and that just active listening will be a big part to help him settle down. Okay. Okay. Be patient. Pray with them. Okay. Prayer gives them hope. Pray over the prompts of God, of how God views him as his child, that he loves him greatly. That gives hope, and that's truth. If high risk, call 911. If unsure, call 911. If you're in the moment of it and you're not in the church context, you're like, what? And call. If in doubt, call and deal with it. There's no harm in that. You can't go wrong with that. If you call someone on the phone and they say, I'm a suicide, and you hear them on the phone, you're talking on the phone, you follow up on people, they give you a list, call these people, I'll call them, okay, you have a great conversation, whoa, I ran across a shut-in that's gotten really scary. This is bad. What do I do? You can call, and I say, well, if I call 911, it's my police department they'll call. They're in the next town over. What do? You call the non-emergency number of the city that they're in. They're Mount Clemens, you call Mount Clemens. They're Macomb, you call Macomb. Then Shelby, you call Shelby. And say, I want a well check on this person. They said this. I'm concerned about them. And the police will go and do a well check. They'll knock on the door. They'll say hi to them. They'll talk to them. They will evaluate what they need to do. And that's okay. Well checks are used. I've used them tons of times. And it's just a good thing to do to find out. And the police, police are always, they're really trained very well to do that. And in here and around, I've never had that go bad on me ever. I've had them go up and they go, we can't get in the house. They call me, I follow up, we couldn't get in the house, couldn't get back to the person. They got in the house. And sometimes we call people, we haven't heard for 3 or 4 days, do a will check. Can't get in the house, we had a bust in the house, find the person passed on the floor. That's happened before too. So there's all kinds of different things that can happen. And then finally contact your pastor overseer, which is me, and say, this is what happened, and don't, I'll tell them Sunday. No. Call my cell phone, I've given you guys my number, leave a message, hey, this is what happened, you need to call me back, and I'll get back to you. If I don't get back to you in relatively time, call the front desk, send a text, keep bugging, that's okay. That's important. The 3 parts. 3 things that we know put someone at high risk of suicide attempt. Number 1, thought of suicide, which happens a lot. You'd be surprised how often people think about suicide. That's only one part, though. It's a 3-legged stool. Number 2, a plan. I have a plan to do this. That's when we get more serious. You say, well, do you have a plan? You ask, how would you do it? I've had people go, I'll do A, B, C, and D. I got the rope in the closet. Okay, we got a problem here. Because they have a plan and they have a means. I got a shotgun. I got a gun. There's a lot of those around here. Okay? What are we going to do about that? If they have all 3, that's a high risk. That you need to report. That you need to contact right away. That we do not mess with. Now, the odds of you come across this are low. I've yet to have a lay minister come across something that was of this caliber. But I just need to inform you. Okay? Now, health issues, problems that we need to do. Like I said, I've had lay ministers making phone calls on seniors, and they haven't responded for a while. No one's talked to them. Family hasn't talked to them. We've done well checks on them because there's been a health issue. I've had some get really sad about some folks get real sad. Some students, life has radically changed. You're stuck at home. You're not feeling well. And they may say some things. They don't mean. They may say, sometimes I want to kill myself. Well, is that what you want, or is that just how you're feeling? Do you have a plan with it? No, I have no plan for it. I feel that way. Okay, that's a real thing. But then you guys may come across. But hardcore odds are low. Odds are low. But just you need to know what to do and what to look for and how to take action on it. But understand, you have to. If you have 2 out of the 3, you better contact us. If you can't contact us, then call 911 or call for a well check. And will we get mad at you about that? No. Better be safe and sorry. Okay? And all fall through your present call 911. Not taking action could result in death, lawsuit against you, the pastors in the church. That's true. It's a sticky situation. So, I mean, I got all kinds of insurance to cover those at risk. To be honest with you, I'm covered by the church. I'm covered my own private insurance for that risk. Kind of stuff we got to do. But that's part of the work that I do specifically.
So there are 3 parts: thought of suicide, plan of suicide.
And the means to do so. I'm going to pull a gun, put it in my head, and blow my brains out. Okay, and I have the gun to do it. Then we typically, and now how I got to deal with it, I got to go, okay, we're going to take your guns away. We're going to contact a family member, we're going to go in the house, we're going to take the guns out and, deal with it that way. And that's a real thing. I'm doing that recently and I go, okay, we're going to take the guns away. And so we go, and they had a lot of honey guns. We had to take them all away, and that was a big thing, but that's what was needed.
I
Okay.
wonder if that's gonna be on the rise, especially with young people and all the, school and.
Yep. A lot of-
Seems like that's,
Right.
might be on the rise.
It might be, you know what? Well, like for example, take this kid that was, Oxford. He had ideation. Homicidal and suicide ideation are kind of the same structure. He had the idea to do it. He didn't have the means until his parents gave him the gun.
I can't believe it.
That whatever. Okay, as a therapist and a guy that does rips this stuff, it was not the best choice. Because and they saw the signs of a thought, and he showed the signs. I have a thought of this, I have a plan, and I have the means. And he took action on it. The only people that, now this is the thing, the school knew about it. That they knew about his thought and his plan. They didn't know he had the means, maybe, but they had 2. This is where I view it. They had 2 out of the 3. Are they liable? I professionally would be liable. So again, I got to take a bunch of steps. I got to report to 3 other people if I know someone's doing suicide. Not just pastor. That's a pastor. That's outside the church. Because and then we do a whole consult. If someone comes to me in a pastoral context, and right now as a licensed counselor, even though if you come to me at the church as counseling, you sign a paper, it's pastoral counseling. In clinics, a whole bunch of paperwork, but there's a form, okay. But if you say I'm going to kill myself, I'll tell a pastor. I'll take care of it. Let you know what's going on. He's like, okay, and I got to call my supervisor. He's a licensed counselor and a pastor. And I got to call him and say, hey, this is what's going on. And then we got to do a whole thing with it. And I got to contact my clinic office. Say, hey, even though the church, I have to do that because to cover my liability, to make sure I'm not making a mistake, and that we're covering everything. And they'll say, you got to do A, B, and C, and D. Okay, then that's what we do. But if there's 2 or 3, then I got to figure out how to mitigate those issues. And I may have the thought, but I got to take away the means and the plan. I got to address the means first of all. And then then we gotta call 911 and we gotta take them to the hospital. And that's a thing. So that's what we gotta do. And if you take someone to the hospital, they gotta be arrested by the police, taken custody of, or they gotta be declared by a psychiatrist, which is a long process, to be hospitalized. And all they can do is they can put them under what are called a 72-hour hold. If the person doesn't want to stay there that long, they can leave. So then they have to be taken custody of, and I don't have authority to what they call committal. I don't have that authority as a counselor. Only psychiatrists and police have that. And police they can only arrest them for their safety's sake and take them to the hospital. But then the hospital has to declare them at risk, and then they have to take action. They can only hold for 72 hours, and that's the whole process, and that's not a lot of fun. So, most of you probably never experience it, but you just need to know those are the risks. That's what you got to do. Never act on alone. Don't act alone. Okay? That we will stop there. All these fun topics, huh?
Is January 23rd still tentative?
That is the day we'll probably